The ideas, procedures, and suggestions contained within this podcast are not intended as a substitute for consulting with a medical professional. All matters regarding your health and fitness require medical consultation and supervision. Welcome to the Warrior Wellness Podcast, a podcast for military members, veterans, and first responders focusing on fitness, health, nutrition, and biohacking. Our mission with this podcast is to introduce America's heroes to lifestyle habits and hacks that will help them live healthier, happier lives, and in turn, be fit enough to continue their support of their communities and country.
Well, Dr. Derek Alessi, thank you so much for being on the Warrior Wellness Podcast. Dr. Alessi is the founder of the supplement brand Strength Genesis. So we're going to talk about that, but also his work as a fitness and health expert and practitioner. So he's a very, very smart man. He knows all the things. So hopefully we'll be asking and answering your burning questions about health and wellness on this episode. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Alessi.
Stephanie, my pleasure. Can't wait to get into it.
Oh, great. Well, you can start with just telling us how you ended up becoming a fitness and health expert. You know, how did your journey end up here? And basically kind of why should we be listening to you? Because there's a whole lot of noise out there in this space about health and wellness and fitness.
You know, honestly, I wanted to be a dentist. And yeah, so it's a reality. It's funny when people ask me, they said, did you always know you wanted to be an exercise scientist and a nutritionist? And the answer is no, not at all. It happened by pure accident. I wanted to be a dentist for a couple reasons. Number one, I had an uncle who was a very successful dentist. And number two, health and fitness were the furthest thing from my mind. I was 244 pounds in undergrad. I luckily had to take exercise science classes as a prerequisite in the very early stages of exercise science being a curriculum in major universities. And I fell in love with it. And I think maybe I fell in love with it because it was really speaking to me. I had never been fit. I had always been heavy. Both sides of the family from Italy. So the influence of a lot of Italian, a lot of foods, a lot of pastas, a lot of grains, a lot of delicacies. And it was the furthest thing from my mind. So no, I didn't willingly jump into it. It happened, and I fell in love with it after the fact. So I feel as though it was something that was really meant to be for me. It started off as a personal journey of how do I get in better shape? How do I lose the weight? Then eventually it started getting into working with a clientele. Now, the funny part is when I started working with a clientele, I still thought I could go back to dental school. I really did. So I thought, I'll do this for a couple of years, work as a personal trainer, give them some nutritional coaching, exercise scientist, work on some injury rehab. But keep thinking I could go back to dental school. And then, of course, as my business grew, as I got deeper into it, I moved away from dental, although I still have a fondness for teeth, and got more into the exercise science nutrition. I've been doing it ever since.
Well, I mean, your nutrition and your health are reflected in the health of your teeth. I do know that.
Yeah,
and
no
according
doubt.
to my recent dental exam, I'm doing pretty good with that. So, so that's good. So if you're having problems with your teeth and your gums and cavities, then maybe some of this nutritional advice and wellness advice you're about to get on this episode will be helpful with that too.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. Stephanie, I guess to take the story one step further, I do have an analogy that I give to a lot of my clients regarding dental and their health and fitness. So if you look back at it over the last 120 years, the American Dental Association has done a remarkably good job of messaging. They told us to brush our teeth and to floss and before we go to bed, first thing in the morning and between meals, and go for our checkups, whether they're annual, biannual, so on and so forth. The American Medical Association has not been consistent with their message. We hear all of these different things, all of these different approaches, all of these different medications and pills, and there's a medication for everybody, and all of these different nutritional information, and it's been anything but consistent. So I would say the Dental Association is more what we should be doing for the rest of our body. And what I really mean by that is you got to brush, you got to floss, not just the week before you see the dentist, but you got to do it on a regular basis to make sure you don't have any problems. And it's the same with our health and fitness. So many people want to cram, especially in the beginning of the year. Maybe they have New Year's resolutions, or maybe it's before a trip, and they want to be perfect or go to the gym every single day for like 2 weeks, or they want to go no carb, no calorie for 2 weeks. And then they go back to their old habits. So that would be a similar to brushing and flossing like crazy before you see the dentist and then neglecting it the other times. Of course, at the end of the year, you're not going to have a good checkup.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And they were the ones the whole time telling us to stay away from sugar, which the American Medical Association hasn't been doing. So
They were,
they
you're
got that
right,
right
you're right.
too. So we know dentists are geniuses. They knew it all. They knew the truth, preventative and stay away from sugar.
That's
So
right.
yeah. What I love that. And I know, when in the time that I was a fitness trainer, and I still do some wellness coaching in the kind of mental health realm part of things. But the hardest part is, and I'm sure you hear this all the time from your clients or potential clients, or even just kind of anecdotally, is, well, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't seem to do it. And so I think, everybody's kind of looking for this magic pill or magic workout or magic diet, and it'll just like, instant gratification. Now we have the GLP-1 issue. So how can we kind of, overcome that kind of instant gratification, short-term mindset, and get focused and on this long-term journey of health and wellness?
I'm going to answer the question in two ways. Most of my career, I was always under the impression of, if we could just start building habits and start making them reinforceable, and if they could do it just long enough, I think people will be more likely to adapt to it, and it'll be a way of life. And that was always my push and always my hope. Now that I've been doing this for 30 years, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. And to answer the question directly, it all starts from within. It starts from within of who we could identify ourselves to be, the journey of ourselves. And I think a lot of people that are looking at different diets, looking at GLP-1s, looking at home fitness equipment, looking at joining gyms, they see themselves as the same old person trying a fitness program, trying a diet program. And that would be the same as a bad student in school cramming before an exam. They still see themselves as a bad student, but they're cramming because they want to do well just on that exam. But until the student sees themselves as a good student, something that a good student would always do, a good student doesn't miss class, a good student always does their homework, a good student is prepared, a good student talks to the teacher. It's the same thing with our health and fitness. If we see ourselves as a healthy, fit person first, and I know that sounds like a stretch, especially if you're out of shape, especially if your weight is maybe at an all-time high and your strength is at an all-time low and you don't have good habits, it's tough to see yourself as a health and fitness person. But as much as you could try to convince yourself of that, the better success you will have because it's not trying anything new. It's you are becoming that health and fitness person, which I think makes the habits so much more easier. So really, what I try to tell both my clients and also my customers at Strength Genesis is I want to make tomorrow a little bit easier for you than today. And we can do that by identifying ourselves as a healthy, fit person.
Yeah, no, you're spot on with that. And that is, I think there's an entire book out there written about that very concept of, just when you wake up every day and you say, I'm going to do what a healthy, fit person does, and all of your decisions are based on that kind of mindset. That mantra is, does a healthy person eat this? Does a healthy person do this? Well, if I'm a healthy person, or if I'm going to become a healthy person, then I have to do the things that healthy people do. Like, that makes common sense to us, right? It's okay. Yeah, that makes sense, right? In order to be healthy, I got to do healthy things. But it's that mindset shift, and believing in that. It's that fake it till you make it. Because obviously, if you are severely out of shape and you have all these chronic medical conditions and your health is suffering and you feel terrible, then, it's hard to kind of fake it because you have all this evidence against what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt that initial push is difficult because you feel as though you're pretending. You feel as though you're lying to yourself. You feel as though that's not true. Understood. I completely identify and can agree with that. But once again, just like that student in school, just like that somebody that wants to be a better basketball player that's identifying themselves as being Michael Jordan or something like that, as long as you could follow those templates. And at first, it might be a slow journey. You might just be doing a couple minutes at a time that could expand to a couple hours at a time. And then maybe soon over time, it could be your entire day, it could be your entire identity. But it's difficult in the beginning until you start developing some momentum and having some frequency with it. And the more frequency you have with it, the more you convince yourself, this is really true. This is now becoming my identity, and I want to be that good student. I want to be that good health and fitness person.
Yeah. And I remind my clients in therapy all the time is that you have to try something in order to get better at it. Right? It's
Yeah.
impossible to get better at anything if you're not willing to actually try it. Right? So if you scare yourself off and be, oh, I'm not going to be good at that, or I'm going to ruin it, or I'm going to do a terrible job, or whatever. I'm not going to, lift the right weights or do that fitness move right. We get in our heads and we kind of talk ourselves out of it before we even do it. And then we forget about the fact that we all have gotten good at a lot of things, I mean, I'm good at skiing now, right? As people are great at playing instruments. Like there were many, many days where they were terrible at doing those things. There were many, many days where I was terrible at skiing, but I was willing to try and get better, right? And then I got good. So we have to remind ourselves that we have to be okay with that beginner mindset, that beginner stage. Yeah, is it painful? Does it suck? Sure. But that's how we get good at anything, right? I'm sure we were terrible drivers at some point, right? When we first started driving, but it took time and experience in order to, well, some people are still bad drivers, but
I was behind a couple today.
yes, we encounter many of them, especially in Seattle traffic. So yeah, but you know what I mean? That's kind of the concept here. So, but I guess what are kind of the top, kind of burning questions people, propose to you about, about fitness? Like what's kind of the top question you get?
I probably get one for health and fitness or the fitness component of it, and the other part for diet. So I'll start with the fitness component, and that is I am either, and they put something in there, I am too old, I am too injured, I'm too
Yeah.
uncoordinated to begin a program. Um, so when you take a look at that, right? So I get it. It's once again goes back to what you just mentioned before. It's still a skill level. If you want to take even what physical therapy is you already have an injury that you're trying to improve. You're trying to create the imbalance to be balanced. Um, it's the way to get better. So you're not too injured, you're not too old. Of course, looking back over 30 years, my oldest client of all time was 97. I have 30 clients above 70. I don't even take somebody till they're 45. So there's not an uppermost age limit to it. I don't think there's either an orthopedic injury limit to it either, between knees, shoulders, hips, back, neck. There's always ways to improve that area. And also, too, we have 639 muscles in the body. I think we could find something else to do as well. We could work around it. So those are probably the most burning questions regarding fitness. Regarding nutrition, it's really, really basic. And this is the funniest part. It's most people will ask me, can you just teach me what I should be eating? Now, as simple as that is, and it doesn't take that much time to teach somebody what they should be eating, I'm going to go back to what we were just talking about before and what you just said. And that is, it's also a skill. So learning what to eat is important, but then practicing it, applying it amongst different locations. Sometimes you're at home, sometimes you're at work, sometimes you're at a restaurant, sometimes you're at an event, and different emotional states. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're bored, sometimes you're sad, sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're depressed. That becomes a skill. So teaching you what to eat, yep, you bet. Won't take that long. Be happy to. Teach you how to eat and manage it on the road and over these moods. different question, different ballgame, right? So that's probably the major two of most people's entry into talking to me.
Yeah. So as an exercise scientist, like what is special about what you do and your approach?
You know, I look at that question and the answer is I'm not exactly sure, other than the fact that I want to relate to people as much as possible from where they're at. I think in the evolution of any fitness trainer, and I teach my staff this all the time. In the very beginning, you're just trying to get people working out and you're trying to follow a workout as a trainer. Then you start going to all these different subspecialty clinics and doing all these certifications, and you think you're the best trainer that ever walked the earth, and you could help people with their gait analysis and their movement patterns, and you could eliminate injuries. And you get very, very, very complex with your programming. And you think that's the top level, but it's not. There's one that is a step beyond it, but it's actually a step down. And that is forget all that stuff because you could work that in there and they don't care about it. They don't care about your certifications. They don't care about all the classes you went to. They don't care about your degrees. They just want to feel better and move better. And they want to start losing some weight. So it's about relating to people, trying to really connect with them so they could get started, get moving, and start improving their grade point average. So just like in school, if a student came to me and their grades were suffering, as a teacher, I have to first see what grade they're in, and then I have to design the right curriculum to start improving their grade point average. And if, with consistency and with evaluations, we will see that happen. So that's essentially it. We're creating a classroom, but it's health and fitness. And your fitness would be the classwork, your diet would be the homework, and evaluations would be body composition and your medications and your blood work and your labs and everything else like that. And over time, you will see your grade point average improve.
Fire Team Whiskey is now found on Burn Along. We're so excited to be able to provide all of our fitness and wellness content right on this platform with thousands of other licensed and credentialed providers who are specialized in fitness, health, wellness, and even financial literacy. So if you've ever wanted to join the Fire Team Whiskey programs, now is your chance to not only get all of our amazing content, but also get access to hundreds of thousands of videos that will help you be well. Fire Team Whiskey is one of the exclusive providers on the Burn Along app. And all you have to do to go to join us is go to fireteamwhiskey.com, click on the link at the top of the page, and use that special coupon code we have for you to get Burn Along for as low as $9 a month. Yeah. And I love that metaphor. And I think you hit on a really, really important piece of that puzzle, is because most people put the cart before the horse, I guess you could say. It's like they just join a gym, right? And I'll figure out the nutrition, and maybe they try a specific diet, maybe they don't, maybe they just, quote unquote, try to eat healthier, right? Well, they skip the very first important step that you just said, was the evaluation of where you're starting from. That's really important, because the plan for for a C student to become an A student is going to be different than an F student to become an A student, right?
Yep.
And so you need a plan, and you need to be assessed at where you're at and what are those specific steps to get you along the way. And that is almost never done. Most people just, I'll just go in and get on some machines and walk on the treadmill, right? And it's like, well, but is that going to get you from point A to point B most efficiently for you? Probably not, because it's just it's random. It's not specified for you and where you're at and where you want to go.
Yeah, Stephanie, I completely agree. I mean, you would never just say, I've never played golf before. I'm going to walk out on the course and win the Masters. You'd never gone to class before. I'm just going to walk into this building and give myself an education. Hopefully, you wouldn't take that approach because you probably would be that successful with it. It's the same thing with health and fitness. If you are at that level, yes, get assessed. You need some type of help. You don't want to figure this out on your own. And getting help is not a bad thing. It will do so many things. It will it will rocket fuel your results. You'll leaps and bounds above what you would ever try to figure out on your own because somebody else has already done it and without the risk of any injury or wasted time. So there's so many good components of it. Yes, of course, I would highly encourage getting some help no matter what level you're at if you're looking to improve. And lastly, somebody might say, well, I really kind of know what I'm doing. I don't need help. If you look at any discipline, the people that are most advanced have the most help. Tiger Woods in his prime had every teacher and coach around him. He had a short game coach, he had a putting coach, he had a long game coach, he had massage therapists, he had personal trainers, he had physical therapists, he had mental coaches. He had every level of coaching around him, and he was the best in the world at the time. So the best you are, you need even more coaching. When you're just starting, you probably need just one coach.
Yeah, yeah. And it's I tell people all the time, just I've had people come up to me randomly in gyms and they're like, "Oh, you're really fit. What are you doing?" Like, "I want to do your plan." It's like, well, okay, my plan's for me, because I'm at a certain fitness level. Like, this plan likely will not be good for you. And I always encourage them, like, get a coach, hire a fitness trainer, get on a plan that starts where you're at. And then maybe eventually, like, you can be on the plan I'm on, but we're on a different, we're just at different fitness levels. There's nothing wrong with where you're at and wrong with where I'm at. It's just we're different. And maybe we have different goals, maybe we have different time commitments, so we just have different ways of interacting with this world. And just because, one person, like if I said to somebody, oh, well, I work out 2 hours a day, and this is what you have to do to get fit, and you've got to do these burpees and these box jumps, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I'll just go sit on the couch, right? So it can be really like a turnoff for people, because I think that's what happens is, especially with these like extreme gyms, like I hate like the CrossFit gyms and the Orange Theories, like, because I have gotten the feedback of people who have gone there. I haven't personally been to those gyms, but I've known people who go to those gyms, and they're usually out of shape, and they're just joining at the beginning of the year to get fit, and this is what they see other people are fit, so I should do this, and then they end up injuring themselves, or just like that first workout and they just like basically like throw up or pass out, and it's like they have this horrific experience and then they just throw in the towel, right? And it's like that's you didn't start where you should have started, and it's so sad because you could have been on this journey and really had a pleasant experience with it, but because you didn't get assessed and evaluated right up front where you needed to start, you didn't get started.
Yeah, don't start with calculus when you're not good at addition and subtraction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So hopefully you can reach out to the people at Strength Genesis to help you with that. But and same thing with nutrition, right? We all have different goals, we all have different body compositions, we all have different health conditions. So that's important too, to not just pick a random, diet, quote unquote, and do that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would completely agree. So so walking into a gym would be the same thing as walking into like a GNC or a supplement store. So if I walk into a GNC and it's confusing, you see miles and miles and miles of proteins and pills and bags and so on and so forth, and all of the labels sound fantastic. But oh my goodness, is it confusing? And typically, as you're going through and spending time reading labels, you'll say, I have no idea what I'm looking at. Let me
Mhm.
ask for help. And you go to help, you go up to the front counter and you're asking a college kid what you should be taking. It's so tough, right? And then, of course, on the back of every one of the supplement companies, and we are a supplement company, you have to consult your physician before you take a supplement. And I could promise you, unless you have a very cutting edge physician, he or she has no idea what supplements you should be taking. With Strength Genesis, it was an offshoot of my private practice. Like a lot of people in my position, I was given questions over the years, such as, can you create a protein powder that didn't have any type of sucralose in it, or any type of sugar in it, or how about some grass-fed protein? Can you do that? And what if you didn't get grass-fed from the United States? What if you got it from New Zealand, which has higher standards for grass-fed and so on and so forth? And essentially, I created a supplement line around my clientele, but it was really around me. So my whole motto is I only make what I take. I only
Mhm.
make what I take. So all of my products, although once again we are a supplement company, we're really a food company more than anything else because the majority of my products are food, and I've created it around that. And right now, probably if you were to ask me what is my hottest product, I have a keto salad dressing, which is made from 100% extra virgin olive oil. It's called Origin. There
Mhm.
is no sugar, there is no carbs, there's no preservatives, and there's no oil in it other than 100% extra virgin olive oil. Now, you might say, well, okay, sounds like a decent salad dressing, but isn't that how you'd normally, use a salad dressing? And the answer is no, because after opening, you do not have to refrigerate this. In fact, we're going to discourage refrigerating after opening, which if you go to a store and buy salad dressing, you will find that you must refrigerate after opening because they're using different types of perishable oils. Typically, soybean oil, can be canola oil or some type of seed oil. So 100% extra virgin olive oil makes it extremely unique. Leave it on the counter, no sugar, no carbs, more of an Italian style dressing. Yes, it has oregano, it has some spices in it, and so on and so forth. And it's by far and away right now our hottest seller. Use it as a salad dressing. Also, too, little tip, you could use it as a marinade if you like to marinate your meat.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that on your website. I'm a big fan of extra virgin olive oil, and yeah, I think it's a fantastic product. It looks awesome. And you have a couple other things on your website as well, the supplements. I was particularly interested in the Australian macadamia nut oil. Tell us about that.
There is a big story around that. So I started the whole company, and that was my first product. So it was about 11 years ago. I'm reading Tim Ferriss's book, The 4 Hour Body.
Mhm.
And in the book, Tim's talking about this new olive oil. And it was Australian macadamia nut oil, and it had to be from Australia. And he talked about why it was the new olive oil. Now, olive oil is a great oil, but it's not a great cooking oil.
Exactly.
Olive
Yeah.
oil, a lot of people don't know this, is relatively fragile. You can't exceed 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or if you do, you smoke the oil, it goes past the flash point, and that great omega-3 oil becomes a very bad oil, losing the omega-3 properties and even becoming carcinogenic. So you never want to go cooking with olive oil above 350 degrees, and it's quite easy to go above 350 degrees when you're cooking. So Tim talked about this oil having a much higher smoke point. It was 515 degrees, and it was even stronger in omega-3s than olive oil. But the last part, which really made me want to try it, was he said it tasted more buttery and nutty, where
Mm-hmm.
olive oil by itself can be a smidge bitter.
Yeah.
So I went out and I bought a bottle. I ordered a bottle online. It came in, tried it out with the family, and everybody liked it. In fact, I was quite impressed with it. The taste was delicious. So I started ordering some more bottles and I started giving it to some of my clients as a perk, and they loved it. In fact, they kept asking me if I could get them more. So I kept increasing my order count to try to get them for clients, and then I was wholesaling them to my clients. And I started ordering 30, 40, 50 bottles or so at a time, which the orders were getting quite large. So everything was going great until I had a hard time finding more Australian macadamia nut oil. I couldn't buy it anymore. I hit all my normal sources. They didn't seem to have much. It was back ordered, it was delayed. So finally, I picked up the phone one day and I called Queensland, Australia, and I called the refinery. And I said, "Hey, I am having a devil of a time trying to find this stuff. Can you guide me in the right direction?" And they said, "Well, the company that was really distributing it for the US is no longer going to carry it. Would you like to be a distributor?" And I said, "No, no, no. I'm not a food company. I'm just looking to buy some bottles. I was hoping you could maybe sell me some oil." And they said, "Well, we could sell you oil." I said, "Well, fantastic." Um, I said, "Do you have a minimum?" And they said, "Well, yeah, we do. How many bottles are you currently buying?" And I said, "Well, I'm buying like up to 50 bottles or so at a time right now." And they said, "Oh, well, we start at a metric ton."
Wow.
I said, you start at a metric ton. So I pull out my calculator. I'm trying to figure out what that is. And that's like 2,500 bottles. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then what happens? And they said, well, then, you're ordering it from Australia. We have to put it on, a tanker ship and send it across the Pacific to you. I'm in New York. I'm outside of Buffalo, New York. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what happens then? They said, well, it's got to go through customs. Are you a broker? Do you have a brokerage account? I said, no, not all. So we got to get one of those. And then what? Then I get this oil, and then what do? They said, well, you got to bottle it. You got to get a bottler. I said, oh, geez, and you have to get bottles. And I said, okay. He said, do you have a label? I said, do I have a label? I don't have a label. Well, you have to get a label. I said, okay, then what? They said, well, is your label FDA compliant? I said, I even have a label. I don't know if it's FDA compliant. So they gave me probably 71 of the most important steps I ever had to follow, right? So of course I went in way above my head. I bit off more than I could chew, and I got a metric ton. And that was about 7 years ago. Now we're probably moving 30, 40 metric tons a year across the Pacific. And it's probably our biggest seller of all time because when people try this oil, they want to continue using it. It's like the world's greatest cooking oil. Super high quality of omega-3 fatty acids, high smoke point, tastes like butter. Make your eggs in it, make your vegetables in it, cook your meat in it, and it tastes like when mom used butter like in 1982 to make your food. It tastes just like that, but way healthier.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to try it. I was eyeing that, the bundle, the salad dressing and the macadamia nut oil bundle. That'll be going in my cart for sure. It looks
Uh,
great. Can't wait
Stephanie,
to
and
try
that's
it.
that's brand new. That bundle is brand new. In fact, it's brand new as of like I'm gonna call it a week ago. And the reason why is my operations director said to me one day, she said, we sell a lot of salad dressing, we sell a lot of macadamia nut oil. What if we do something crazy and you could buy like one of each and it's in a bundle? And we looked at each other like, I don't know why we never thought of that before.
You right?
Right? It's just the most bizarre thing. So I know all those nice accolades you said about me before being smart and intelligent. I didn't never mix our two biggest products together. So I question myself sometimes.
That's great. Well, so strengthgenesis.com is where you go to check out these amazing supplements that they have. They have lots of other supplements, so definitely check those out. We just only mentioned a couple, but I just wanted to give you the floor for, any last words for our audience on all your wisdom, Dr. Derek Alessi, before we close out.
The one last thing I will say about Strength Genesis is what our company ethos is, and that is products that are better for the body and better for the planet. Now, better for the body in a couple of ways. Number one, the ingredients that I sourced and found in these it really are second to none. I wanted to make sure that we had the best quality products. So, Australia macadamia nut oil, extra virgin olive oil, and the salad dressing, New Zealand grass-fed protein powder. But secondly, which makes us very unique, is everything we package in sustainable material. So think about supplements and think about going into a health food store and seeing all the protein containers. We don't pack in plastic. Our protein is in metal. It's in aluminum containers. Our scoops are made out of wheat straw. All of our oils are not in plastic bottles, they're all in glass. So we don't use any plastic because plastic is ridiculously terrible for the human body
Mhm.
and not great for the environment either. But we consume so many products that are made in plastic, and it's not helping our health one bit. We want to use less plastic. So everything that we put in is the finest ingredients in sustainable material. And I could stand behind the products. As I said, I've taken more of this than anything else. I not only use it for myself, but I also give it to my kids, 3 kids. So better for the body, better for the planet. And it's very authentic and sustainable.
Awesome. Yes, I love that about your company. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I was very impressed with your packaging and the microplastics that, wreak havoc on our immune systems and just, it's terrible. So I'm so glad you guys made that choice. And so definitely feel a lot better about shopping on strengthgenesis.com rather than GSC. Well, thank you so much for being on the Warrior Wellness Podcast, Dr. Derek Alessi. I really appreciate your knowledge and your wonderful products, supplements, and giving us your time.
Stephanie, it's my pleasure. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed being here, and once again, really enjoyed the discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Warrior Wellness Podcast. I'm your podcast host, former Army Captain Stephanie Lincoln, the founder of Warrior Wellness Programs. Check us out at warriorwellnessprograms.com. I really would appreciate you just taking just a second to follow or subscribe wherever you saw this video or listened to this podcast. And even better, if you leave us a review. That'll help us reach others who really need this information. So your honest feedback about what we're offering on the Warrior Wellness Podcast will help us do that. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.